All right, good evening, everybody. Thank you for joining our onX Fish 101 Masterclass for this evening. We'll get rolling in just a couple of minutes here, but we do want to go through just a couple of housekeeping items while everybody gets logged in and gets situated. So, first off, your audio and video are turned off, so we can't see or hear you. So no worries if you have, dogs or kids making noise in the background or anything like that. We do have a member of our customer support team in the background answering questions. So please use that Q&A feature along the bottom of your screen for all questions. There's also a chat there. Chat is not a great place for questions. It's just not built for us to be able to answer them and kind of keep track of everything. So please use that Q&A feature if you have any questions. We will try to save some time towards the end of the class to answer some questions live on the air as well. And this class is being recorded. So we will send an email out to everybody tomorrow evening. It'll come to your inbox about this time with the YouTube link so that you can go back and rewatch a portion, or if you have to leave early and watch the portion you missed, or send it to a fishing buddy or something like that. So you'll get that email tomorrow. And we are doing a giveaway towards the end of the class. We're going to give away a few of these hats that I am wearing here, some onX Fish hats. So we'll post that giveaway link towards the end of the class. You do have to be present to enter, and then we will draw the winners tomorrow and notify the winners and get your hats sent out to you. So with that, I guess some introductions are in order. My name's Jack Headland. I'm not going to be doing the bulk of the talking tonight. But I am going to be doing a couple of demonstrations here. I'm based out of our Missoula office. Luckily, we have Joel Nelson over there in Minnesota, who is much more of a fishy man than I am. Joel, we were talking earlier, off air. What's the weather forecast looking like for getting some ice going out there?
If you're like me and you enjoy Thanksgiving Day, maybe eating turkey, watching some football, but then also staring longingly outside, you'll have some cold looking woods and water to look outside at. It's gonna dip pretty appreciably. We're gonna see ice, especially in the northern portions of the ice belt by the time we get to end of November. So I've already heard from some deer hunting buddies that have been up by Bemidji, and they've said like small bays on certain smaller lakes have started to ice up. Definitely small swamps, fens, ponds are starting to ice up. So it's looking pretty good, barring any major snow in the forecast, which we don't see. It's doing what it should be doing. We're getting excited to do it.
That's funny you mentioned Bemidji. I was just up there in that area deer hunting, and opening day, the beaver dam I was sitting by, that pond was skimmed over with ice. I think a couple of those 60-degree days probably took the ice off, but the water is it didn't warm the water up that much. We get some cold temps, it'll skim over again and start building, I would think.
Yeah, 100%, Jack. You used up all of your luck in the deer woods. I killed two small deer, which hopefully equals one regular deer, but you just keep killing deer. And if you're like the rest of us, once the time to hunt deer is over, it's time to ice fish, right?
I hope so. We in Montana, our weather can be a little fickle, so I don't know if we'll have ice quite as fast as you will, but I'm looking forward to it this year for sure. Well, let's get into the agenda for the day. We're going to cover the ins and outs of the onX Fish app. The goal of this class is really to provide everybody in this class with the know-how to, maybe you're still open water fishing this time of year, to be able to go out this weekend to find a body of water to go fishing on, to find the type of fishing that you want, whether it's, you're targeting eater walleye or whether you're just trying to catch a whole bunch of sunfish or something like that. We'll go through all of our fisheries data. We'll talk about some of our different map tools and our offline maps, some of the different layers available to you. We'll go over our imagery, which is super helpful for ice anglers. And then we'll go through, some Q&A and that giveaway at the end of the class. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Joel and stop sharing so that he can pull up the map on his end and get into how kind of his thought process on how he starts using the app here. So take it away,
Yeah.
Joel.
Thanks so much, Jack. Yeah, I'm really excited to share with you guys kind of the first ice themed master class of the year. It's been a little bit since we've done one of these, not just ice, but master class in general, and just excited to have you. We will, by the end of this hour, train you in. You'll be relative experts at onX Fish, or at least have a great inkling on where to look for some of the features that help me and so many other talented anglers throughout the rest of the Midwest catch more fish. And really, that's what it's all about. This is information to help you have a more productive day out on the water, whether that's hard water like is coming up, or whether you're trying to sneak out in the boat one last time to maybe mark up some schools of shallow walleyes that you want to troll on the next full moon, and hopes that they'll still be there once a layer of ice forms up. So just a couple of housekeeping things right off the bat. We will get to states that are upcoming and new and now covered in the app that weren't previously. But before we get to the map, I just want to address a couple things with onX Fish. The first thing is Android is coming. We are hearing you loud and clear. It is not something that we have neglected or something that we have put on the back burner. It's something that we have full-time Android engineers working on literally as we speak. So if you're an Android guy or gal like myself, I'm an Android user as well. We're looking forward to seeing it in the app. But I don't really have any strong predictions to give you. I could, and then I might disappoint you, and we don't want to do that. So stay tuned. If you are an Android user, you can still use onX Fish in your subscription via the web, and that could be on your cell phone, could be on a tablet, could be on a laptop or desktop. We find that a lot of heavy planning sessions where you're really kind of diving into a new area or you're traveling to fish and you want to find more information on new lakes is really well done on a wider screen anyway, fits more lakes, see more real estate. Nothing beats the handiness of having it on your phone, and that's what we're striving to for you Android users. But rest assured, you can still use it now. It does not mean that you are dead in the water. It just means that you're not going to be able to use it as an app function within your phone. So, but rest assured, we're working on that. Another thing, we've got a couple new features and new wrinkles to the app that are going to be really nice add-ons for you guys. So if you have been an onX Fish user, let's say last winter, and you haven't visited the app since, you're going to find some really neat and new things that'll help you catch more fish, as well as new data. So we're constantly adding new fisheries data, and we'll do a better job upcoming as part of marketing announcements to let you guys know when we've got new surveys in the app, when we've got new contours in the app, because we keep updating as we get more information and this thing grows. Currently, we are in a pile of Midwest states. Literally, there's only a handful that we don't have. And I think I'm going to take this opportunity to run right to the map, share my screen here, and show you guys exactly what I'm talking about. All right, Jack, can you see my screen?
Yep, we got you. There is a, nope, just got rid of it. You're good to go.
Excellent. All right, well, wonderful. Depending on where you were zoomed into previously for onX Fish, or maybe this is your first time joining in, one of the first things you'll see when you zoom to this level is states that are not currently supported are kind of listed as such. They're kind of grayed out. There's a darker olive green versus some of the brighter greens that you see throughout the states that are supported. So keep in mind, this is just currently, but we are constantly dropping new states. So, for example, Iowa was literally just added to the app a few weeks ago. I don't think I'm sharing any super trade secrets to let you know that Missouri is coming very, very soon. But if we're looking at all of the states that we have, South Dakota, North Dakota, Minnesota, Wisconsin, Michigan, Ohio, Indiana, Illinois, and Iowa, with Missouri on the way, we're kind of knocking them down as they come. Not all of them are ice fishing related states, but most of what you see, depending on what kind of cold weather we get, will support some ice. So I'm really excited to get to dive in and show you a little bit more. I choose my home state of Minnesota only because I'm more familiar with it for a lot of the examples that we're going to share. But rest assured, everything that you see here works the same from state to state. So no matter where you live, if it's an onX fish supported state, you're going to be able to find great information on the waters that you fish. So um, the first thing that I invite everybody to do is as you're kind of looking at the map, is just kind of familiarize yourself with all of the different components you're looking at. There's a number of things on this left-handed sidebar. I will be using this on a web-based format, like you would view it if you're an Android user that pulls it up on a desktop or laptop. Jack will be highlighting some instances directly from the app itself to show you just the small, minute differences that you might experience, but to give you guys a good flavor of both sides of this thing here. And you can follow along with me, but I will caution you if this is the first time you've been in the app, you maybe aren't familiar with some of the naming conventions, the things that I'm going to mention. You might get a lot more out of this presentation if you just sit and watch the screen, enjoy yourself, let me drive, and show you guys a lot of different examples. And then, as a note, on our YouTube channel, all of our master classes are posted. At the very least, you'll be able to view historical ones immediately following this. So you can look back and see exactly how to utilize the app based on the YouTube channel that we have and the previous recordings that you can follow along with. So keep that in mind. First thing I want to show you, Lake Finder. If you really don't know where to start for onX Fish, you can start with this Lake Finder. If you're using the app, it's in the lower left-hand corner. On the website, it's upper left. And right away, when you click on Lake Finder, for the zoomed in or general area that you're at, and I'm at very broad zoom levels, it's just going to start suggesting lakes. And each lake has a card. You'll see small badges in these cards, like the trophy badge for Lady Lake. It calls out that it has special regulations. So this could be like a 5 bluegill limit or a slot limit for walleyes. You see a number of other lakes listed. Each of them have their own designations too. And you can see that because I have walleyes selected as a species with trophy, it's kind of influencing the lakes that are suggested. When I turn that off, I go to Lake Finder, just generally speaking, it basically picks center of the map. And as I mouse over these areas, you can see the lakes lighting up actually on the map. I'll zoom in a little tighter to a specific area and kind of do the same. So we're kind of in that Lake Osakis area. I go to Lake Finder, and right away, as I kind of zoom over or mouse over Lake Henry, it identifies on the screen right next to Alexandria there. Lake Agnes does the same. And you also see there's headings here: abundant walleye, abundant bluegill or crappie, trophy walleye. All that Lake Finder does is provide just generalized suggestions as kind of a quick cheat code to get you off the ground and running. So if you don't want to deal with really diving deep into the app and you just at the moment are too caught up by all the buttons, all the different things going on the screen, just do yourself a favor, zoom into a part of the map that you're familiar with or want to learn more about, click on Lake Finder, and then simply kind of go through and see what various recommendations there are for different classes of lakes with different species. And as you can see, there's a lot more than just the badges. There's max depth, size of the lake, year of last survey, which is going to give you a lot more information. We'll have more of that to come, but I just wanted to give you guys an idea about Lake Finder. Okay, so Lake Finder is just kind of a first cut. But where the true power lies for onX Fish is quickly and efficiently sorting through lakes that meet the criteria that you select. We have something called premium filters, and there's a couple different ways to get at those premium filters. But when you are a paid subscriber of onX Fish, you've got a ton of power at your fingertips. And I'm going to show you where the premium filters and the entire filtering process lives right now. So if you're on your app or if you're on the web, this same 3-button configuration is kind of the key to understanding your filtering. You can click on all, you can click on species or access. All is probably the one-stop shop that's easiest, that gives you an opportunity to understand every variable you may try to filter for on the map. What do I mean by that? Okay, let's click on this filter. Again, it will be at the top of your app or the top of your web map, and it will just be a button that says all with two little toggles on it. The first thing you see under filters is species of fish. So what you want to do is go ahead and highlight one or more of your favorite species. Obviously walleye rules and looms pretty large in the state of Minnesota being our state fish. You see immediately on the map what lights up. And it is all of the lakes that have walleye in them and have a survey in which they were identified show up with a red icon. So that's your first tip off to what lakes simply have walleye in them. I can't overstate the power of that one step, most basic filter that we have. I know tons of people that spend inordinate amounts of time trying to catch walleyes in lakes where they are either very rare or they don't exist. And it's kind of frustrating, but also interesting to see that with just a little bit of information, they could make so much better decisions. And that's really what we're all about, making better decisions with better data. So for walleyes and all species, then you can move on to the premium filters: trophy potential, high abundance, keeper potential, or high stocking effort. And I'm going to go through each one. Trophy potential lakes are lakes where actual fish have been surveyed. This isn't a social media app. This isn't your buddy's uncle said he caught one there and it was 34 inches long. This isn't a Facebook post that is designed to throw you off the trail of lakes where people are actually catching fish. These are data that are sampled from real DNR fisheries biologists. They are all recorded and caught part of various surveys through lots of different lakes throughout different years. So you've got an outstanding historical record of when these fish were caught, as well as a direct length measurement on a bump board. This is true, real to life. What you see here is fact, is Bible. It is not conjecture, and it is not just made up data. So when I select trophy lakes, these are lakes highlighted in red where actual walleyes over 28 inches have been sampled. Fish that big have been actually caught out of these lakes by DNR sampling nets. Similarly, when I select high abundance, these are lakes, now for walleyes, because I have walleyes selected, where there is a high species abundance, an above average abundance of walleyes in proportion to other lakes in the area, other lakes in their class, and other lakes that also have walleye in them. Keeper potential lakes. These are lakes with walleyes, because I have walleyes selected again as the species, where a large proportion of the population, 35% or greater, make up the greater population, but these fish in that 35% or larger class are for walleyes between 14 and 19 inches. These are fish that are, at the time of survey, about the right size that you would want to keep if you're keeping a meal or several meals of fish. So keeper potential, whether you're talking bluegill, crappie, or walleye, is a great place to identify lakes that have the target size of fish you want to catch. And then there's high stocking effort lakes. You can see whether we're talking muskies, whether we're talking walleyes, or even panfish and bass, lakes where they have put a large amount of effort, a disproportionately large amount of effort towards stocking fish. And there's a whole bunch of information that goes along with the stocking. But in some lakes and in some states where there's not as much survey information, this is a wonderful surrogate to help you understand that the DNR puts a lot of time and a lot of effort into increasing the population of said species in your lake. So with those simple filters, you can quickly get down to the size of the fish, the number of fish, and types of fish that you want to catch. And maybe it's not walleye. Maybe it's crappies. As we approach winter, crappie fishing is great. And for crappie fishing, isn't it fun just to windmill catch them left and right? Just, regardless of size, catch a whole pile of them. You can use the high abundance filter to do that. Let's say you want to look for just lakes that have a reasonable size class of fish to keep and eat for the pan. You've got a number of lakes kind of called out for that too. Or maybe you're after just trophies and you can see that not a lot of lakes in this area specifically have targeted fish 14 inches or greater. So it really kind of narrows down your search if you're going trophy hunting only, depending on the species you're chasing, where to go. All right, couple more things within these filters. You can select the kind of launch. If this is summertime, you may be interested to make sure that this is a paid launch for your big, double axle bass boat on a trailer. You may be interested in just gravel or natural launches to try to get away from the crowds with a kayak. You may want to make sure that there's a restroom at the landing, or maybe these big lakes are less interesting to you and it's a heck of a blow day out on the water and you're looking for lakes 200 acres or smaller. And all you have to do is select done once you've kind of clicked on all these, and it will highlight the lakes for you that meet all of the criteria that you select in the filters. And I will stop right now to say that if there's one thing that you take away from onX Fish, this is that thing. This is the single most important way in which you can have a leg up on your fellow angler. And it's another way for you to fish smarter, to have the information at your fingertips and always know that where you're fishing is a place that you should have confidence in fishing. These are fish that were actually caught in survey nets. These are not reports. This is not throwing you off the trail. This is not user-generated content on a social media platform. This is the real deal. So use the filters. Subscribe to onX Fish. Use the filters. Select your species. Determine which premium filter satisfies the criteria you want for the size of fish and the number of fish you want to catch. And it's going to make you a better angler just by selecting the right place to fish. Okay, enough harping on that. Let's say at some point you get clicked out on here and you've collected a whole bunch of things and it's starting to get a little bit confusing. At any point, you can click this reset button at the bottom and it resets your entire filters. I heavily recommend doing that. Another thing, when you're using the filters and you're kind of constantly changing your map view and you're scrolling all around, you need to remember to click this search this area button. The search this area button is going to highlight and refocus on the specific area that you've selected to make sure that it satisfies those new conditions as you're scrolling. So always remember that. It's very similar to Google Maps. If you've used Google Maps to find a restaurant, anytime you scroll or change the map view, you need to make sure to re-educate the map and search for this area as you click. So you see that keep coming up every time I scroll the map around. It's going to say search this area. Remember to click on that. Okay, that's it for the filtering portion of what we're doing here. I'm going to double check my time. Looks like we're doing okay. Now we're going to do a little bit of a deep dive. Okay, so we have gone through our premium filters. I've done a little bit on Lake Finder with you. Let's really dig into certain lakes. So we were down in that Alexandria area before. Let's stick with that. Let's look at a lake like Miltona. I know Miltona came up for us when we had walleyes selected. I believe it was a trophy potential lake. First and foremost, if we know that we're going to target Miltona, we've got a lot of data staring us right in the face. The first thing you see, if you've never been to Miltona before, we've got a bunch of red dots all showing up as specific fishing areas. Okay, well, let me click on one of these fishing areas. As I click on it, it shows for walleyes, Area 6, a good year-round walleye spot. Fish the entire area in the winter for walleye, pike, and bluegill. Not a ton of information to go off on, but as you click on these different points, you see that it identifies structure. What lake bottom is in that area? The shallows are an early season walleye hunt, while the deeper breaks yield walleye and muskies in the fall. Deep sandgrass holds bait fish. Don't neglect the 7-foot sunken islands summer or fall. So you can really start to look into these individual spots. And when we have walleye selected, it actually highlights the fishing areas where walleyes are called out, and it kind of dulls these areas like areas number 1, 2, 8, and 12 that don't have any walleye pertinent or walleye specific information. In this case, it's talking about panfish. So these are collected from over time, over the last 35 years through Fishing Hotspots, because these are Fishing Hotspots data. These are from guides. These are from resorts. This is from different bait shops and fishing reports that have provided information on these specific areas. So they are community spots, but if you've never been to Lake Miltona before and you're going to be having a cabin rental experience up there over Christmas, or let's just say it's a lake you've always wanted to fish but have never known really where to start, these fishing areas, the fishing hotspots areas that you see lit up all over this lake, are great places to start. As you see, not all lakes are fishing hotspots lakes, but where you have them, it provides invaluable starting point information to kind of help you out. Okay, let's dig a little deeper into Miltona. Okay, first thing we do when we click on Miltona, I still have walleyes selected, and you see top species sorted by relevance. It identifies a number of things about all of the species. So let's break this down a little bit. We see it's got 100-foot max depth, 5,688 acres. It's a very clear lake. It lists the average clarity at 10.7 feet, which, no surprise, you can see that sandbar kind of bow tie going right across the middle of Miltona there. There's a lot of information there that you can see just from the naked eye with the aerial photography. Okay. For the lake itself and the survey information, what you're seeing from the DNR is listed in each one of these species cards under the lake card. When I mention the lake card, what I mean is when you click on a lake, just like I did, and it highlights it in red, and Lake Miltona comes up, for example, the lake card contains a pile of information on all of the species, as well as some of the regulations and coordinates, accesses, and amenities, stocking history. If I click see all species in the lake, it lists all of the species that are available along with their stats. But we talked about walleye, so let's dig into walleye. The first thing you see, trophies. Okay, it's got a trophy badge. That means a big fish has been sampled here. It's also a great lake for keeper walleyes. It was last stocked on October of 2024. And we've got walleyes with a high stocking effort, an average 16-inch length, and extremely high abundance. And you see this little kind of pointer arrow. It's above the average range for lakes that are similar to this one in its class. All right. So how did I get to the picture of the walleye and get more information? I just clicked on the walleye. So I click on it, and now I can start to look at the size structure of the fish from this year that it was sampled in the year 2023, August of 23. And it gives me an exact count of the number of fish surveyed in the sizes I looked at. I can also look back in previous year's surveys, and I can start to get a feel for what years had some of the better production, some of the better year classes moving through the system, and to understand that this has been a perennially favorite walleye lake for many years in the past. As I scroll down, you see I'm mentioning, and you can see catch per unit effort, CPUE. What is catch per unit effort? I'll put it very simply. A high catch per unit effort is good, and a low catch per unit effort is bad. So when you see catch per unit effort, it simply means the number of fish caught divided by the unit effort. So that could be net length, that could be net hours, it could be number of nets set. But a high number over a small number means a high number. So again, high is good, low is not as good. And we see again at 10.75, there's a high catch per unit effort, meaning for not as much netting, they're sure catching a lot of walleyes in Lake Miltona. You see more information on the largest fish that was caught in the survey. And we've got direct stocking stats based on fry, fingerling, yearling, even knowing that 928 adults were stocked in the year 2016, and that as recently as 2024, they're still stocking fingerlings and fry. So you can definitely see that this is a lake that has a lot of attention on it from the Department of Natural Resources, and it has been a perennial walleye favorite year after year. This would be a great lake to focus some attention on fishing for walleyes in the Alexandria area. But keep in mind, that's just one species. Maybe we're interested in keeper crappies, and that's really what's getting us here. And in 2023, there were a lot of fish in that 9 to 11-inch range. You can expect that they've grown some. So we're probably seeing a lot of fish in that 10 to 12, even 10 to 13-inch kind of size range. You see the catch per unit effort for crappies is above average. So a fair amount of fish that kind of fit the billing for a fish fry, knowing that, hey, even if the walleyes don't bite, maybe you can get into a crappie bite. Maybe you can get into a bluegill bite. You see that there's high catch per unit effort of bluegills and extremely large bluegills. When I see a 13-inch fish, I almost think that that's a survey error potentially. But I tell you what, I have not uncovered very many of those. So let's keep that one under our hats. That's just between us, maybe. A 13-inch bluegill, that would scare me almost. But as we continue to look at the rest of the species in the lake card, you can see that there's just a rich array of information here. And I think I even saw that there's trophy smallmouth here too. So if you're out there in the summer, boy, what a smorgasbord of fish to go after. All right. So that was just a single lake. And remember that this idea of filtering, let's say we were filtering for trophy walleye lakes only, we're going to be able to identify a number of different lakes that fit our category. And once we do find a lake like Miltona that we really like, you can select this little banner in the upper right-hand corner. And once you select it, it's stored under one of your favorited lakes. So this is a lake that you can always have quick reference and go back to, and it's listed directly underneath my content. So under my content is all of the folders, tracks, areas, routes, lines, more on that later. But your very favorite lakes, your saved lakes are saved right there. All right. So it's time for me at the top of the hour to come up for a little bit of breather. I've been talking to you guys nonstop. We've covered a ton of stuff. We've covered Lake Finder as a scratch the surface. We have dove headfirst into filters. And for the species that we're looking for and the size and number we're wanting to catch. And then we dove into exact species information for walleyes, for smallmouth, for bluegill, for crappie, to give you guys top information on all of these lakes. Again, our main value prop that we think is offering anglers the best chance of success is to find new lakes. We know that lakes cycle. We know that there are populations that boom and bust. We understand that aquatic invasive species like zebra mussels can change the bite. Sometimes for the better, other times not for the better. But we do know that no 2 years are alike, and bites are rarely consistent year in, year out. There's places that happens, and we as anglers treasure those locations. But the best medicine and the best way to always stay ahead of the curve is to fish new lakes, find new bodies of water with new species of fish. This will make you not just a better angler, but you'll always have a deeper bag of tricks to choose from, knowing that you'll be covering lots of different lakes and constantly putting new lures in front of new fish. So again, find new lakes, and onX Fish hopes to give you the confidence to get there. That's really what we're about. If you're not sure where to go or what species to tackle or target, we're your number one stop. We're your one-stop shop to helping you find new fish. Okay. So Jack, with that, I'll pause a little bit. I'll see if there's anything that I should have covered in more detail or something that you think that we need to tackle at this moment. Otherwise, I'll let you progress, good sir.
Yeah, while the fishing hotspot stuff is kind of fresh in everyone's minds, we had a question come in.
Great.
Person said, I don't see numbered area icons for fishing spots on a variety of my local lakes. Do hotspots just not exist for these lakes? Should I expect to see hotspots added in the future? And can I search for just lakes that contain hotspots?
Ooh, great question. The hotspots data are pretty much the data as they sit. We have all of the fishing hotspots lakes that have currently been compiled. We're working on new features all the time to help give you more information on a per lake basis. So stay tuned for some new developments on that front. But one way to find out what lakes have fishing hotspots data or not is by zooming out to around this level. You see all these tiny little blue dots. All of those are fishing hotspots on the different lakes. Miltona, Carlos, Osakis. We've got a couple over here for Pelican. But wherever you see the bright white dots, these are probably going to be the more popular fisheries. More information exists for them, more robust fisheries and different species to target. So that's what we have to share about the fishing hotspots data.
Awesome. Well, should we jump into the app and go over some offline maps and some map tools?
I think that's a great idea.
All right, give me a moment here to get my app screen shared. It's taking its time. Let's try again. There we go. So let me pull up my map here. So if you have used any of the other onX suite of apps, maybe you're a deer hunter and you've been in the stand recently, or maybe I know Wisconsin opens up this coming weekend for their rifle season. A lot of what I'm going to cover tonight is similar to the hunt app, the off-road app, the backcountry app. But if you haven't used those apps, this will be new for you. So the first thing we're going to talk about is our offline maps. So this is how you're able to utilize the app when you don't have cell service. So I'm looking at Lake of the Woods right now. It's been a number of years since I've been up to the Lake of the Woods area, but if I remember correctly, not super great cell service, especially as you get out of town. So let's say we're planning a trip to Lake of the Woods. Maybe we're sleeping on the ice, maybe we're not, but we're going to want to be able to use the app when we're out there. So along the bottom of my map screen, there's a number of icons. The second icon from the left says offline maps. I'm going to tap on that. Then I'm going to tap the green button that says new map. And it's going to pull up a screen that looks something like this. Whatever is within the box that's on my screen is what's going to be saved for offline use. And you can choose different map detail levels. So along the bottom, I can go low, medium, and high. Most of the time, I'm going to recommend the medium or the high maps. Some of it's going to depend on the size of the lake you're fishing, or maybe you're making a trip to an area and you plan to fish. I have hunt on the brain right now. You plan to fish a bunch of different lakes. You might want to save a bigger area and save all of those lakes in one map. For this example here, Lake of the Woods, pretty big lake. Maybe we want to use the medium size map because we might be bouncing around to a bunch of different areas. We don't know exactly where we're going to be. If we kind of have a better sense of where we're going to be, maybe we're going out of Zipple Bay here and we know we're going to stay pretty close, then I'm going to use the high detail map. You notice the map size as detail level goes up, map size goes down. That's just because of the download size of the imagery. And that's really what we're talking about when we're talking about detail level is the resolution of the imagery. So if you really want high resolution imagery, use those smaller maps, those high detail maps. If it's not as much of a concern for you, you can go to those medium ones. So I've got my map set kind of where I want it here. I can just swipe up to expand this menu, and I highly recommend naming your maps. So I'm just going to name this Zipple Bay because that's where it's centered. Name it whatever makes sense to you, whatever's going to work, and then hit that save button. And I can see that download is kicked off and it's showing me a percentage. And then once I have that map saved, you'll notice I have a green box on my map. That is going to show me where I have a map saved. If I zoom out, you can see I've got maps saved kind of over Winnie, some more in, that Cass Lake area, Grand Rapids. So you can save a number of different maps and stitch them together if you'd like. You can even save a medium resolution map like I have here. And then if I zoom in on Cass Lake, I have a high resolution map. So you can have maps within maps. Whatever, again, whatever floats your boat, pun intended. I've got some smaller detailed maps here. And if I scroll up on my menu, I have all of these maps named, and you'll notice some of them say update available. What that means is something has changed in our map data since you last saved that map. So for Cass Lake, for example, if I want to update that map, all I have to do is tap that green check mark, and that's going to update that map. Most commonly, those updates are going to be to like property ownership. That's what changes the most. Any of the properties that border the lake, any changes there. If we get new imagery, you'll have the option to update things like that. So it might not be mission critical that you update the app. Let's say you're driving out this Saturday morning, you're going to go fishing, you see, oh, there's an update available. Don't let it delay your trip. I remember talking to a gentleman who said, man, we were driving out this weekend and it said update available, so we had to pull into a McDonald's to get Wi-Fi so that we could update it. Your map's still going to work even if there's an update available. It's just that something's out of date. So update it when you think of it, update it, a few times throughout the season. It's not something that you need to do constantly all the time. But when you have the option, I recommend doing that. So a couple things with offline maps. When you're offline, you are still able to see your location within the app. You're still able to mark waypoints and track yourself, and we'll run through those two features here in a bit. And as long as you've got the offline map saved, you're going to have all of that map imagery as well. So the app really functions very similarly offline to how it does when you're online. Your map, your location on the map is not determined by cell towers or by internet connectivity. It's determined by the GPS receiver in your phone. So that's how it's able to find your location even when you don't have service. And since we're about to enter some colder weather here, maybe you're already getting it in your area. One of the big concerns for a lot of folks is battery life, especially if you're going to be out, all day. It's really cold. Maybe you're not fishing in a shelter. That's really going to zap your battery life. So the biggest tip I have if you're concerned about battery life on your phone is to utilize airplane mode. One of the biggest draws on your phone's battery is if it's trying to connect to a cell tower, especially if there's no service or maybe intermittent service or pretty weak service. So putting your phone into airplane mode is going to extend your battery life probably greater than just about anything else you can do. You're still able to see your location. You're still able to mark waypoints. You're just not connected to the cell network. So you're not going to be able to send or receive phone calls or text messages. What I do, I'll put it into airplane mode. If I want to check to see if I had any calls or texts or anything, I'll pull it out of my pocket, take it out of airplane mode, do my business, do what I need to do, put it back into airplane mode, stick it back into an inside pocket so it stays warm, and go about my day. All right. So moving on from offline maps, let's talk waypoints. I'm going to find a lake that we'll stick with Lake of the Woods. I might actually be able to make a trip there this year. There's talks of that with some college buddies, so hopefully that comes to fruition. But I'm going to want to be able to, when we're ice fishing, I'm going to want to mark where the house is placed. I might want to mark, where exactly we parked the truck if we're parking on shore, if we're not driving out yet. Maybe I want to mark some different areas that I want to try fishing, or maybe we're going to hole hop a lot and I want to mark where we were catching fish. To mark a waypoint, there's a couple ways you can do it. If I go to the bottom of my screen again and go a little bit over to the right to the icon that says Tools and tap on it, I have a couple different ways to mark a waypoint. One is just by tapping Add Waypoint. That is going to place a waypoint in the center of my screen. If that's not exactly where I want it, I can just tap on my screen. I can zoom out a little bit still, and I can tap on the screen, and everywhere I tap, that's where that waypoint is going. I'm just going to put it on this Fishing Hotspots icon there. Maybe that's a spot I want to check out. I also recommend, just like your offline maps, I recommend naming your waypoints. It's probably even more critical to customize and name your waypoints, because if you just leave it as the timestamp and the X icon and don't change the color. 6 months from now, a year from now, if you're anything like me, you're not going to remember what you marked there. So do your future self a favor and put down the pertinent information. So let's say this was a spot where, man, we really just got into the walleyes and we crushed them. I'm just going to put good walleye bite. I'm going to change the icon as well. We've got dozens of different icons for you to choose from here. Some of them are for marking, where a camp is, where the boat ramp is, marking an access point, obstacles in the water. And then, of course, we have a number of fish species in there. Since this was a walleye spot, I'm going to select the walleye icon. And then the next thing I'll do is change the color. So there's a lot of different ways you can color code your waypoints. Some people will do it by year and they'll say, all right, so for 2025-26 ice season, I'm going to make them all red. And then next year, I'm going to make them blue. And the year after that, I'm going to make them black so that I can see year over year, are things the same? Are things changing? And then that lets you know, hey, how relevant are these waypoints? Hey, man, we caught a lot of walleye there in 2023, but it hasn't really been good since. So that you're not going on old data and not wasting time on a spot that used to hold a lot of walleyes but doesn't anymore. Another way to color code your waypoints could be by species. This is something a lot of folks do where they'll say, all right, all my walleye spots are red, all my bluegill spots are blue, my bass spots are purple, my muskie spots are brown. Whatever makes sense to you. Pick a system and kind of stick with it and utilize that system. That way, when you have 1,000 waypoints, as you're marking all of these spots, you can tell at a glance what you're seeing there. So I'm going to make my walleye. I'm going to keep it that reddish orange color. Then I'm going to hit save. So I've got that waypoint saved for future use. If I want to share a waypoint with somebody, maybe I've got my fish house set on a lake, my buddy's coming out to meet me. He doesn't know where my house is. It's dark. I can share that waypoint with him to where my ice house is. You can do that by going along. Well, let me back up. I've got a waypoint set here, okay? I want to send this to a friend. How do I do that? First, tap on the waypoint. Along the bottom of my screen here, I have options that say edit, add to folder, share. When I tap share, I can hit share with a link. Once I share with a link, it's going to allow me to choose to text it, to email it. I can just copy a link and paste it into an Instagram message or a Facebook message, whatever messaging app you want to use. Most commonly, you're going to text it to somebody. You can send that to a friend. They will get a text message that says, Jack would like to share a waypoint with you on onX Fish. They will click on it. It will open up the Fish app on their phone and ask if they want to add that waypoint to their map. If they say yes, they will be able to see that waypoint on their map along with any information you have added in there. So the name of it, the color, the icon, any notes you had put in there. That's the only way other people are able to see your content. That's a question we get fairly often is, if I'm marking waypoints, if I'm putting pictures in there, is that publicly available? It is not. Your data is your private data. No other onX Fish users can see it unless you explicitly share it with them. Us at onX Fish, we can't see it. It's private. It's not, we're not doing user-generated content where everything that people mark is publicly available and then your honey hole gets fished out. So you can rest assured your data is private. Nobody else can see it. Another thing you can do with waypoints, if you want to be able to see what the wind is doing at the spot, especially open water season, if you have a smaller boat or you just don't like fishing in big waves, you can set the wind direction. It'll take me a bit to upload there. But once I have that set, it'll tell me the wind speed and the direction for that waypoint. Joel's going to get into weather and wind a little bit later on. But this is a way for you to easily tell, hey, what's the wind direction? What's the wind speed for all of my different waypoints to help you make decisions on where you might go out this weekend or tomorrow. There are other ways to mark a waypoint in the app. One way, if I go back into my tools, is mark my location. So that would be how you can mark where you are at the present moment. I'm not going to hit it right now because I'm sitting in an office in Missoula, Montana. So it's going to swing the map back over to Missoula. But if you want to mark, like I said earlier, where you park the truck, so you can find it at the crowded boat access later. If you want to mark where your fish house is, if you want to mark where you were catching all those perch or all those crappies, you can just hit mark my location. It'll drop a waypoint on your spot where you're standing, and then you can go in and edit it like I just showed a little bit earlier. Okay. Another tool I want to show here is our driving directions. So I mentioned earlier, I might be making a trip with some college buddies to Lake of the Woods. I'll be driving from Missoula, Montana. I don't know where we would be going out of. Let's say it's Zipple Bay. So I tapped on the Zipple Bay public water access icon here. It tells me all of this information about it, tells me other nearby ones. I can get to some weather information if I want. But right now I'm interested in driving directions. So again, I go to the bottom of my screen. It says share. I can add a waypoint there if I'd like. I can also get driving directions. We'll give you the choice of Apple Maps or Google Maps. I tend to use Google Maps. Let's see how long of a drive it is from Missoula up to Zipple Bay there. So it's going to kick me over to my Google Maps app. Hey, it's only 17 and a half hours. I can do that in a day, depending on winter weather, I suppose. But then I've got my driving directions right to that boat launch. So that's pretty slick. If you're fishing a new area, you're fishing a new lake or a new access, you've never been there before. Some of those roads in the northern part of Minnesota are not necessarily the most intuitive to know where you've got to turn and where exactly to go. So you can utilize the driving directions there to get to your fishing spot. Joel, I think that's about it for my portion. Anything I neglected to mention or anything I should go into further?
No, I think nailed it, man. I mean, that driving directions thing is super valuable. I just talked to Tony Roach today, and I always bring him up in this section because he's a pretty famous guide in northern Minnesota, and that continues to be his favorite feature in the app. Literally getting from A to B, from access to access, without making two wrong turns that cost him literally an hour and a half in lake country. Because once you get on the backside of some of these lakes, especially ones like Mille Lacs, you've got a heck of a poke to get back to the other side. So, all right. Well, thanks so much for that, Jack. I tell you what, I'm going to share my screen again, and we will take it away for the remainder of the programming here. So I'm going to zoom back out, generally speaking, kind of where I was before in that Alexandria area. And we're going to tackle a different part of the app you haven't seen yet. A lot of power here to see tons of information that are going to really benefit you as an ice angler. And if you click in the app or in the web feature here, onX Fish, this little layer icon, it looks like a couple of sheets of paper stacked. I'm mousing over it right here. Again, lower right-hand corner for both the app and the web portion. This is where all the layers live. Now, if you're a frequent fan of onX Hunt, a user of that, you'll know what the map layers can do for you. And in onX Fish, they're pretty simple. We can change from hybrid aerial to topo all the way to just aerial. Topo gives you an idea of general lake depth. There is basic contour lines. We do get asked about our contours. Why is there only DNR 5-foot contours? For right now, we're focusing on lots of different portions of the app besides mapping. Again, you can't catch a 28-inch walleye where it ain't. Even if there is excellent HD mapping for the lake that you're on, we're focused on helping you guys find new lakes and new opportunities to fish. And to be honest, for a lot of these lakes, 5-foot DNR maps are all that's available. We're trying to help you find some of the places off the beaten path. So Topo is one way to look at that as a base map. Hybrid has the aerial photography along with some of those lines, those contour lines that we talked about. And aerial photography has no contour lines over the top of at all. But we also have a lot of other layers down below. So I'm going to avoid this little section here, aerial high quality and recent satellite for right now. We're going to come back to that. But I also want to mention some of the power that exists in onX Fish that does not exist in any other fishing app with our private and public lands layer. If you're looking for creative ways to get onto water, and that really comes into play for ice anglers all the time, maybe it's an aquatic management area, maybe it's through a state park, maybe it's through federal, state, or tax forfeit land. When you click on these land areas, you see aquatic management areas. This is owned by the Minnesota Department of Natural Resources. So it offers you lots of different ways to know that the access that you're making is truly public and helps you get onto lakes in different ways that you probably wouldn't have thought of before. Along with that, we've got pre-SIP radar, so you can constantly keep up to tune with different snowstorms that are rolling in. We've also got motorized trails and snowmobile trails. So, especially some of the more remote parts of different states, snowmobile may be the best option into some of these backcountry lakes. So, keep that in mind too. Okay, let's go back to map layers. How did I get there? Again, this little sandwich layer looking feature. I click on it, and this is all my controls for the layers. Let's focus now on when we have hybrid or aerial selected, either one of those two base maps. We can keep the high quality summer imagery. This is leaf on imagery from the summer, very high quality, very good resolution. And we can sacrifice a little bit of resolution, but get a lot more data to look at some of the recent conditions. And importantly, you can go back in time. So you see this little bottom portion here. I'm scrolling through different dates and seeing ice up in the areas that I'm trying to target for a fishing excursion. So a lot of times here, I don't want aerial hybrid. I'm looking for just aerial photography. So I see as much of the lake and its ice formation without any contour lines kind of blurring. Remember, we were looking for trophy walleyes in that Alexandria area. As I look through past years, 2024 was a good year and everything locked up really tight, but it happened really all at once. And you didn't get a great feel for what lakes locked up first. Whereas in 2023, ice was a little more suspect, and it helped us really understand what lakes locked up first and where. You can see lobster, it's identified as a trophy walleye lake. It's one of those ones that showed up in our search. And there's some loose ice formation in different places. The same with Mary, another trophy walleye lake. You can see actually this bay right out of the public access. If it's deep enough, and we can kind of look at the hybrid there, right out of the axis here on Mary, you can get to potentially that 8 to 10 foot break before it hooks out of the bay and still potentially have decent ice to walk on if you stand near shore and you kind of spud bar your way out. This could be a great first break option for tip ups, for dead sticks, trying to get after some of those first big walleyes of the year. As I cruise around, I look at other lakes and opportunities. I'm going to go back to Ariel here. You see, Lahamadu is one of them that might be an opportunity as well. I'm kind of going forwards and backwards through time. You see me select back and forth on this imagery, and I see what lakes are locking up first. And I see that Lake Carlos looks like a horrible choice to get on very first ice. It's a great big body of water. It is fairly deep. Same with Ida, same with Latoka that has big fish. Lobster looks like it's mostly locked up here. So that would be another great first ice opportunity for trophy walleyes in the Alex area. But Lahamadu really looks good with the exception of this extremely deep hole right in the very center of the lake. Um, but what I'm looking for is not just what areas freeze up first, but where can I shuffle out to that first break? And you see this Rotary Beach area looks pretty darn good. It looks like near shore you've got some good ice. Even this Kruger Creek Northeast access, we can start to understand. And you see I selected walleye. So every dull red, light brown, tan, however you want to look at that, that is lit up as a fishing hotspot area is designated for walleye. Now, those could be summer walleye spots, so we're not going to index on them too heavily, but definitely through your looking of recent aerial imagery, you can get a great idea of where lakes freeze up. You can also see really well what areas are traversed the most. These are actually kind of plow lines. There's some cracks. This area never really froze up really great in Carlos. I'm going to go back to an area up in northern Minnesota, which really shows off the power of this recent aerial imagery. Upper Red Lake, very popular fisher. You see all these big straight lines. Nature doesn't make a lot of straight lines on aerial photography. So these are all plowed ice roads. And as we go through this year, we can see all the detail for the plowed roads network. If you've never used onX Fish, you probably don't know about CarPlay either. You can plug in onX Fish to the dash of your truck out on the ice, and you'll actually be able to follow yourself with the tracker feature and just having the app up. You'll follow yourself working out on these major ice roads. And importantly, you can see where those ice roads stop, and you can see a great big crack that formed kind of in the northeast portion of Upper Red Lake, and how a giant section of this lake really never got fished in the winter of 2023, 2024. Of course, we can forward to just last year too and look at different freeze up and how the ice kind of formed. We can look at some of those holes. We can see some of that road network shows up a little bit differently when there was not much snow, but you can still see the plow lines that show up quite well, and the areas that they were able to get to last winter, along with, again, some of the holes where the ice roads never went to. So a great, powerful feature using recent satellite imagery, especially when paired with Tracker and CarPlay. Now, Tracker, just another reminder, Tracker, every time you hit the ice, you should have onX Fish with Tracker on, because it'll store a breadcrumb trail for all the safe areas that you wandered out to, you spudded out to, you drove a UTV out on, and it was safe, such that when your day is over, it's dark out, you've packed up all the tip ups, you're on your way back, maybe there's a snow or other weather that's come up, you can follow that breadcrumb trail right back off the water. So I hope we've given you guys some stuff to noodle on. This is by far and away not the only ways to use onX Fish, but if you're going to use it to find new water, to identify lakes that have the species you want to catch and the size and number you want to catch them, then figure out through private or public land access, along with some of the recent satellite imagery, what areas are prone to freeze up first or most. You can definitely utilize the app to fish smarter, to fish better, to get on bodies of water in places and times where other anglers just simply aren't targeting very much or very well. So I want you to keep all that in mind, and I just kind of want to open up this last little section to questions. If we have them, Jack, is there anything burning in your mind that we haven't covered either? I just want to double check. I know I didn't get to weather, but I'm kind of running out of time. What do you think? Should I give them a quick salvo on weather?
Yeah, I was gonna say, for everyone still hanging with us, we appreciate you. I've thrown the giveaway link in the chat. So if you want to
Awesome.
click on that to get entered to win an onX Fish hat, go that route. Just take you a second or two to put your email and shipping address in there. But yeah, I don't have any burning questions that we haven't answered yet. So let's dive into weather for a little bit.
All right. I'll just give you guys a quick overview of weather. If you're anglers like I know you are, you understand the importance of weather, and weather continues to be one of the more unsung but extremely valuable portions of the app. We've been told by many, many of the interviews that we hold to understand where we should develop next, what works in the app, what doesn't. We've been told by tons of those interviewees that the weather is one of the best things that they like the most about the app. So first and foremost, you see the crosshairs wherever you center this on, you're getting weather for that specific location. It is interpolated from a surrounding network of information. And you're not just in this instance getting weather for Bemidji, Minnesota, you're getting weather for this specific location. And all of the attributes you see below on this weather are listed out for that specific GPS point. So first and foremost, calm, no precip. 34 right now up in the North Country. We've got a rising barometer. You got sunrise and sunset clearly laid out, a weekly forecast, but importantly, an hourly forecast and a mercury or barometer forecast, which you can look out hourly. If you're a muskie angler, or more importantly, lately, if you're a trophy angler of any kind, and all of these species are predators depending on when they're feeding and what they're feeding on. Majors and minors are really important. Again, not just for the musky crazies, but for folks that are looking to try to find key times to catch big fish. The moon phase is extremely important. And you can plan your trip with the moon phase calendar that's kind of listed here in the weather app as well. But all of this exists by simply clicking on the lower right-hand portion of your screen. It might be upper right for the app, but it's the weather button inside the app. You click on weather, and it is the most complete fishing weather that we've ever seen and has more information than any other app's weather function that we've been able to shake a stick at. So that's weather in a nutshell. We invite you to explore that and all other portions of the app. Jack, it looks like we have a couple questions. Um, I see Jim Crowley. That moon phase calendar is awesome to have on this app. Jim knows what's up. Jim's a talented angler. I know Jim. Definitely a big deal to have that listed out. Do we have any more questions, Jack, or should we wrap this thing up?
Looks like we must have done a good job of presenting because I don't have any other questions in there. So I think we're good to wrap up.
Very cool. All right. Well, thanks everybody for joining. We're really excited to get out on the ice and have a great time this year. Do it safely. Measure your ice. Use the spud bar that you got. Be smart out there and use the app to get you into places that you otherwise wouldn't have had the confidence to do so with. So understand public access. Figure out which lakes have the best opportunity for the fish you're looking to target and go out there and take a big swing. You're going to do so with a lot more information. We used to just do this hunt and peck style, right? We used to just, hey, let's go try that lake over there, or I wonder what's in that lake. And you'd listen to your uncle tell you that back in the 70s they used to catch crappies there. We've got a lot more at our fingertips now to fish smarter and fish better. So can't wait to have everybody see success on the ice with onX Fish.
All right. Well, thanks again, everybody, and stay tuned for future master classes. We have a good one coming up in December. We'll be sure to let everyone know about. And with that, let's all think cold thoughts so that we can get on the ice soon. Have a good one.
Have a good one. See you guys.